The sun was setting over the dusty plains of Willow Creek when Ethan Cole rode back from the southern fields. He was a man built by hard work and solitude, a rancher whose life revolved around cattle, horses, and the quiet hum of the wind brushing over endless grass. The townsfolk called him the stone-hearted rancher, a man whose heart had died with his wife 3 winters ago. Since then he'd buried himself in work, shutting the world out, letting his ranch grow but his soul wither. As his horse trotted toward the wooden gate, he noticed something strange near the fence. 2 small figures, standing close together, their hands clasped, their hair tangled by the evening breeze. He stopped, squinting. 2 little girls, no older than 6, dressed in worn-out clothes, dirt smudged on their cheeks, but eyes that shimmered with something pure, hope. "Mister," one called softly, "please, can you be our daddy? Just for today?" Ethan froze, the reins tightening in his gloved hand. The words struck him like a bullet to the chest. "What did you just say?" he asked, voice low, rough like gravel. The braver twin stepped forward, her little chin trembling. "Our mommy's sick," she whispered. "She said daddies make everything better, so we came looking for one." Her voice cracked at the last word, and the smaller twin, tears filling her eyes, added, "Please, mister, just for today." Ethan's throat went dry. He dismounted slowly, the leather of his boots crunching against the dirt. "Where's your mother?" he asked. The girls pointed down the path toward the broken edge of the forest, where a small abandoned barn stood. Without another word, Ethan walked toward it, the twins trailing behind him. Inside the barn, the air smelled of hay and rain-soaked wood. A woman lay on an old blanket, pale, exhausted, coughing weakly. Her clothes were torn, her face gaunt but kind. When she saw him, she tried to sit up. I'm sorry," she whispered. "They didn't mean to trespass. We've been walking for days. I just needed a place to rest." Ethan knelt beside her. "You're burning up," he muttered, touching her forehead. "You need a doctor." She shook her head weakly. "Can't afford one. Please, just let them stay here tonight. I'll be gone by morning." But Ethan couldn't look away from those 2 girls, their small hands clutching each other, eyes wide with fear yet full of trust. Something in him broke, a dam he'd built after losing everything. "You're not going anywhere tonight," he said firmly. "You'll come with me. I've got room and food." The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. "Why would you?" he interrupted. "Because I can't stand watching kids starve by my fence." By the time they reached the ranch house, night had fallen. The twins ran around in awe, the first real home they'd seen in months. Ethan made soup, the woman too weak to protest as he carried her to the guest room. The twins sat at the table, eating silently but smiling. "Thank you, mister," one said softly. "We told Mommy you'd say yes." Ethan managed a faint smile, the first in years. That night he stood by the window watching the stars. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time since his wife's passing, his house didn't feel empty. It felt alive. The morning came with golden light spilling across the meadows, and for the first time in years, laughter filled Ethan Cole's ranch. The twins, Lily and Lucy, chased each other through the open fields, their giggles echoing like music against the mountains. Ethan watched from the porch, a coffee mug in hand, wondering how such tiny souls had brought warmth back to his life so easily. Their mother, Grace, was resting inside, recovering after a long night of fever. The local doctor, called by Ethan himself, had said she'd make it, though she'd need care and rest. Ethan had promised to help. It wasn't out of pity. It was something deeper, something that had been buried for far too long. Later that day, Grace woke to the smell of fresh bread. She found Ethan in the kitchen, apron on, struggling with dough and laughing quietly as flour covered his sleeves. "You're a sight," she said weakly, smiling. He turned, surprised, but relieved to see color returning to her face. "You needed breakfast," he said simply, and the girls said pancakes fix. Everything, Grace looked toward the window where the twins were feeding the ranch dog. "They haven't laughed like that in months," she whispered. "Their father, he left when things got hard. Ethan said nothing, only nodded. But Grace saw it in his eyes, the same loneliness, the same pain. Two broken souls meeting by chance. Days passed, and the ranch that once echoed with silence now felt like home again. The twins helped feed the chickens. Ethan taught them to ride the gentlest mare, and Grace cooked dinner, her laughter blending with theirs. One evening, as the sky turned crimson, Lily tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Mr. Ethan," she said shyly, "can we call you Daddy now? Mommy said it's okay if you don't mind." Ethan froze again, just like that first day. Grace stood at the porch, her eyes meeting his, uncertain but full of gratitude. "You don't have to," she murmured. "They just love you." He swallowed hard, his chest tight with emotions he'd long forgotten how to name. He knelt, putting a hand on each of the girls' shoulders. "If that's what you want," he said softly, voice trembling, "then I'd be proud to be your daddy." The girls squealed and hugged him tightly, tears of joy spilling down their cheeks. Grace turned away, wiping her own. That night, under the wide sky, Ethan sat by the fence, the same place he'd first seen them. Grace joined him, her hand brushing his. "You saved us," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No," he replied. "You saved me." The stars shimmered above. The wind carried the soft laughter of the twins from the porch. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt whole again,